Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, April 6th, 2021 Water Sewer Commissioners meeting. Let's start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think I'd like to start with Frank Fournier and Superintendent updates, please.
Thanks, Luke. Keep going with technicians continuing to work with multiple fire suppression companies. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we had a couple large pump tests that were coming up. Those tests were performed. One was at Horizon Beverage Facility on Commerce Way, and the following Tuesday was a fire pump test that was performed on South Washington. There were no incidents during the testing. Before, during, or after, we obviously monitor the water quality and continuously monitor the pressure during the tests. We did receive one complaint in the Pine Street area shortly after the test was completed on Tuesday. It's unknown if it was related to the event with a change of direction of flow on Pine Street to feed that large fire pump down off of South Washington Street. Either way, technicians responded, ran hydrants on both sides of the complaint, and it was clear within a few minutes. So again, speaks volumes to the water treatment facility. We definitely would have been out there much longer if we didn't have that in place and operational as we do now. Technician actually went to the door to try and raise somebody and explain what their options were for flushing their sprinkler service. Let me start again. Flushing their domestic water service after the sprinkler fire pump test. Nobody came to the door, even though there was a car home. This area is filled with long water services, some uphill, some downhill. So there's a potential that some debris could be trapped inside the water service. We were going to explain to them some options that may benefit them, as it seems to be isolated to that one area. Wells 5 and 6 replacement project still moving forward. The crew from Sullivan began I believe it's 100-hour pumping test and development at the new well 5A. Depending on the water clarity, I heard that they were going to be doing a rate test this week of that well. Information I had earlier today was they're around 80 to 85 gallons a minute per foot on new well 5A, which is an incredible amount of water. It's actually, if we stay at that rate, it'll be more than our permitted amount for withdrawal from Mass DEP. So it's a very good start to a brand new well, which is the reason why we went that route. We will be having Frank jump around once he's completed the development there and the water quality. I know we mentioned it was either last meeting or before that we had ordered a pump and motor for well 4. We're going to have Frank mobilize when he's done at 5A over to well 4, pull the existing one that we have an issue with. It doesn't seem to be performing the way we expected it. We're going to do a quick cleaning on that well. It's a benefit. It's been in the ground just about a year. Shouldn't take very long or cost much money. We had very good results with the cleaning that was done prior to installing the low head pump. And the pump that we're going to install now is slightly larger. And actually the 2-stage pump, so we should get more capacity from that well, which will help us through the summer. Right now numbers will be tight. We are not going to do a spring flushing program. It will be a modified version of what we've done in years past, flushing some of the longer dead-end lines for water quality improvement, and the continuous sprinkler flushes that we're doing on the 2-inch lines and the larger lines will help us, continue to improve water quality throughout the town on all the large commercial buildings. So you won't see the water specifically coming out of a hydrant, but it'll still be being turned over along these larger venues. We have this couple set up that'll be coming up on Mansfield Ave. Some for future development. They have to perform flow tests in order to get the information that they need there, and then others is for existing insurance regulations. They perform tests on their pumps. So we're we're gonna handle it the best we can with what we have, and, we can't get, those 2 new wells in fast enough.
Right. I think you're being very prudent in the cautious, with no spring flushing or limited, because if you do push, the existing wells and have a failure, we're headed into the biggest water use time of the year with, also limited supply, and we don't need any surprises before we're so close to the end of that project.
Yep, that's exactly my thought. The primary treatment operator is on board with the decision, and we may actually utilize a cleaning technique that is used by dumping acid down the existing well 5 and 6 to clean the screen and the very near gravel pack, and then we do a flush to waste on that. It's turned a few hundred gallons a minute improvement on one of the wells in the past. As you guys know, we can't clean either one of those 2 existing wells. So we're very limited what we can do there, but we're going to do everything we can to get every last drop out of them before we decommission them. There was some talk with Tara and Kevin McKinnon from Weston and Sampson about possibly shortcutting the process of going out to bid for construction on those. We've been cautioned that there's a potential for a significant change order that may come in because DEP has final approval on the pump and motor selection. So based on design, if we pick a certain one that we particularly like and they don't like it, once it's ordered, we're on the hook for that. So there's options we're looking at. Again, I think we're at the discretion of DEP, regardless of what options we pick.
What would be the cost differential, potential cost differential, Frank? Is it $10,000? Is it $50,000?
You're probably looking at $10,000 each well. So you're looking at maybe a $15,000 to $20,000 number. It's all going to be dependent on what DEP allows us to remove. Just because we're permitted to remove a certain amount doesn't mean they're going to allow us to go right up to our maximum amount.
Right.
So we would love that to be the case, and we could throttle that down and have a pump that's ready to go whenever we want it to.
Right.
But again, we have to get approval from DEP for everything that we do. So
what is your preference?
I would rather go now than wait, have everything in line, but I'm going to defer to the professionals at Weston & Sampson who do this, in and out for a living and figuring out contracts, and if they're telling us to hold off and wait, I guess I'm going to have to defer to them.
Yeah. What do you think, Mr. Bishop?
Well, I think that the looming drought is what bothers me. That's why it's a good idea putting out the flushing. Because they're talking drought right now.
Right, no, it is. You know, I mean, as an excavation contractor, we're not dealing with mud. Now is the wet season where we're traditionally saying, hey, it's too wet to work over there, translated really, which you did over here, but it's really not wet. It is scary. I don't know offhand what we budgeted for that pump in each well, but I'm not even saying maybe hit the middle of the road. Have them bid the Ultra one, and then if it comes in that they need to buy the 50% less or the much less, dare I say, a generous contractor will give you a somewhat discount. Is that,
right.
Or they just say, oh, hey, we already planned on that upchuck. I don't know.
The concern is the lead time on the pumps.
Yeah, so there's no way around it.
I don't think that there is, unless something really changes. The floods and fires and everything where these pieces come from really changed. On top of COVID.
It's our world. You can't. There's so much you can't get.
Right.
Right now.
When you
lumber.
Yep.
Year over year, it's 40%
Yep.
higher. It's insane.
Right, it is.
So this situation we're in has affected things industry-wide, whether it's mobilization, manufacturing, import, export, and I know these things have to be U.S. made, I'm understanding, right? And if you buy the all-the-way pump and can't use it, it doesn't make any sense to have such a substantial pump that's only doing 60% of what its capacity is.
Right. It'll run outside of its operational curve. It's not recommended. It's not the end of the world, but
no, you don't
really don't want to do it.
You don't need the hand grenade if you can get by with the BB gun.
Right. So I know, like I said, Tara and Kevin McKinnon and myself have been talking quite a bit about it. we may wait, until we see water results from new well 5A, because that could also change what happens, with the approval of well 5A, depending on the wonderful thing known as PFAS.
Right.
They would implement, some type of short-term solution in order to use that as a blended source with our other existing wells, based on whatever numbers come out of the ground. And we don't have that information yet. We don't have any of our existing wells.
Yep.
It's just going on an idea of what might be there based on surrounding towns. So there's multiple factors that go into it. But, you know, if I had my way, I'd just have it sitting there waiting to go right now, but
Of course. Very strange, the PFAS, where one of our wells is already offline, and our other 3 wells downstream are fine, underneath the 20.
good.
It's odd, it's very odd.
We'll take
But
it.
there's so many factors, Teflon tape,
Right.
the way you handle it, the testing is so sensitive.
Yeah, the requirements for actually even just picking up the PFAS bottles, whoever picks those bottles up on that day, you couldn't have showered, used shampoo, conditioner, or deodorant.
Well,
Same thing when you take the test. Right.
The field are all set.
Right, you know.
Anybody can go.
Right, no colognes, no, all the stuff that you may
Hand
think.
sanitizer, right? That's gonna set off the ticket.
Right, so you gotta be very cautious about how you handle them, and there's many parameters that are out of your control, not to point a finger, but the delivery driver that brought the bottles to
Right.
the lab, I'm sure they're not aware of the requirements. There's multiple things that can cause, what's called a false positive. You can do everything right and still come up with a number that may not be representative of your system. It's just one of those things.
And you double wrap it and have like a little sanitized Pelican box that we have for ourselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's where you're headed. Because I've had the samples for it has waste cleanup that we do, and it is a certain thing to be able to take a test of the groundwater, or the soil for that matter, and the drivers, I'm not going to say they hire anybody who will arrive, but I got to think their supply of help is as challenging as the rest of us, so it's a little scary. And I know a seasoned sample courier would be getting to know about PFAS, but the new hire is pretty scary.
Right, yeah, I mean, if they're using, the average shipping company to move these boxes around worldwide, you gotta assume that they're not taking particular care about what it is, they're just getting
Oh, you're
it
saying
where it needs to be.
generated clean sample bottle.
How big are the bottles?
They vary. It can be like a little.
Will it fit in the cooler?
Yeah, they do.
They have to.
They actually give you a cooler.
Yeah.
The cooler is filled with the bottles.
Yep.
And you can wrap
There's like
the cooler or something, or no?
You gotta be careful what you use,
It's
even
just
to wrap it.
everything.
Right. And sometimes they're going to transfer it to their cooler.
Yep.
They've got the cooler in the back of the vehicle.
Right.
It's a whole.
That's what
There's a
it
chain of.
is.
There's a protocol of who has it.
There is even some gloves that you can't use.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Like that, like that.
Yeah. But we'll focus on the positive, that you guys have a few that aren't detecting, and we'll take that, or detecting below the limit. We want that water. Send that our way. Talk about that. On an unexpected positive note, we were granted reduced monitoring from Mass DEP on our 11 copper program.
All right.
Something we've worked on forever.
Yep.
I've been here 20 years, and I remember when it was implemented, and we scratched our head as far as why, and there were changes in treatment techniques that required the additional monitoring to continue. So we actually have a twofold here. We were indicated that as long as we remain with all our Tier 1 sample sites, which are chosen by DEP, it's not something that we select, that we're also eligible for a one-time reduction in the amount of samples. So we're going to request to cut the number from 60 down to 30 with all Tier 1 sites. That plan is going to be submitted to DEP for approval, and we're at their mercy if they want to oblige us with that. It's something moving in the right direction that we were expecting. No, that is good news. We'll take it.
Did they mention anything about, dialing back the hydroxide?
They did not. I believe that was where this letter came from, was from something that was generated a while back, questioning what their explanation of treatment process change was. I had asked for a description from them because I didn't believe adding a filtration plant and a coagulant was a change in treatment technique. It was further bettering our water. Changes in treatment technique that I gave them for an explanation was changing from liquid chlorine to a chlorine gas, or removing one of the products that we use, like polyphosphate blend or something of that nature. To me, the definition of treatment technique was different from what they had. Now, whether that generated this letter and change, I don't know. I'm not trying to take, a pat on the back for it, but we'll take wherever we can get. It may be short-lived when those 5 and 6 go online, but
You're consistently coming under the 90 percentile anyway, so I think that's really what because we got the same one, or similar. But they didn't give us a choice. They just downgraded us from 120, 60 a year, which is still, we were doing 30 for years.
Yeah.
There was nothing that prompted them to go to 60, but this is DEP we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody's a DEP.
So again, we are still going to work. We have a pile of sample results that was passed on to Weston and Sampson that we were going to come together and discuss. Again, trying to get them to lower our pH level that we were required to stay at based on previous sample results. And see if we can go from there. And that would make a huge improvement, regardless of what our monitoring numbers have to be at. If we're taking 100 samples, 300 samples, it isn't going to matter. It's going to improve the water quality throughout the system. It's going to allow us to use less disinfection, which is going to save the town water department money. So there's multiple benefits to changing the level that we're forced to run at right now. I have a few more things. You want to stay right to the numbers here? Or?
No, I think we should.
I might be able to push it real quick.
You just continue. I think we'll do what we need to do.
All right. There was some talk a while back about updating the requirements for the contractors that perform work installing water lines, making connections to the town's distribution system. Noticing what some of the other towns around us do as far as for requirements. I think it'd be in our best interest, and I'd like the board's opinion and possible vote, to mimic one of our surrounding towns. They have requirements to be a water installer, would be proof of valid heavy equipment operator's license, proof of insurance with the town listed as an additionally insured. The one thing I didn't notice but has been a topic of conversation lately is a copy of the OSHA 10 safety training certification. And three references of people who are familiar with the work for new applicants. The surrounding town that we took some of this information from does charge a fee for this because it will obviously create a lot more legwork here in the office. We would validate the information and grant the license, which would be in our best interest to run with our fiscal year, which would be July 1st to June 30th. And it would be the responsibility of the installer to maintain and renew the license as needed. I think it's time to move a little bit further ahead, make sure that the people who are working on our critical systems, most of them we know. It's great. We've worked with people for many years. We know they work in other communities. It's not a problem. This is just moving forward to make sure that new companies or new people that come in, or the fly-by-night guy that shows up, is actually qualified to do the work, for his safety and for ours.
There's very few towns that don't require licensing. I would like to see, if there is a fee, I would like to see it nominal. And also, if perchance, in septic installers licenses, some towns actually have a penalty for not renewing, and I find that not constitutional and prohibitive, because as you would refer to the people as a fly-by-nighter, if somebody came from an outside never licensed in town before, why would they receive better treatment than someone who was licensed the prior year? So my only objection would be no penalty, because personally, as an installer, a septic installer, or a water installer, or sewer, we only license up where we have work. So over the years, we've been licensed a lot of the surrounding towns in southeastern Mass. But if we don't have work out there, I'm not going to license 20 towns. And, you know, some of the people are like, well, if you don't have a license, nobody sees you on the list. The type of work that these people do is either word of mouth or a friend of a friend, and I don't think having a license mandatory to be renewed is a wise choice. So that would be my only comment. I think the OSHA 10 is a good thing. Hydraulics is a must. The bonding, and then the references. We all know that somebody can cause more havoc than we want to discuss in this forum with one wrong move. And I don't know if the license prevents that, but it certainly narrows the perimeters.
Right.
One contractor comes to mind at 264 East Main Street with a whack at a pipe who was, you know, they were obviously licensed and well experienced, but it's that sort of thing you don't want to have, you know. I guess when that happens, you want the licensed people to understand what to do next.
It has some responsible party for it.
Mm-hmm. And it's like doing the sprinkler flow test. It's just another level of communication between the office and in this current environment. And going forward, communication is critical. So, you know, during the licensing process, it gives us as a department more contact and more time to give the people the requirements and what they intend to do. And I'm sure the application for each service, whether it's water or sewer, would say, you know, a little sketch of what you plan to do and the type of sell-offs and such, the nuts and bolts you're going to use, so the guys don't show up for an inspection and, we don't allow that type of thing here. And, you know, the guy had it on his shelf for 10 years. That doesn't help us out any. So I think if we do move in that direction, it would be positive.
This is actually a draft that was made by John, the assistant super. There is a reference, as you mentioned, on the bottom of that to the Department Rules and Regulations. It shows a link where they can go to familiarize themselves with the Department Rules and Regulations, which may be a little bit different from another town. That will be available online, and that link will obviously just be a click and follow. Instead of we'll have a few printed here, but it just avoids wasting the paper.
Right.
It's easier for someone so they're not trekking all the way down here, and then it gives you the separation as well.
I think the 250 is a little steep. What do we know? Is it 100?
Right now, the sewer drain layers license, we charge them $50 to take the test.
Yep.
That's if they want to install it on their own property or one property.
Yep.
There's an additional $100 fee to be active on the drain layers list, which is what you had mentioned there.
Yeah.
You know, something similar to that wouldn't be a bad thing. We do get calls quite often for people wanting to know who's a reputable contractor in town.
Right.
We do not give referrals. We refer them to the phone book or to the internet. You know, and you can find a lot of things, good and bad, on the internet.
You can. But I think something on the order of maybe 150. Because again, if people are running 8 or 10 towns, 250 in 10 towns, I don't have to do the math. It's 2,500, and you may only get that one job, and unfortunately, it gets passed on to the customer.
Yep, you're exactly right.
And in an open market, as a contractor myself, if I look at some of these towns have $400 drain layer licenses, and it tells me that they only want their good old boys network of the same 6 or 7 people doing it over time, and that's not what gets our customers the best rate.
Right.
So if you have a lower barrier to entry, your applicant pool is larger, and you get, you know, again, sometimes these people say, this is my installer, and they're coming with me no matter what, but it's still going to get passed on to that.
Right.
It's the ratepayer that's going to pay in the end of everything.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
If we have a more reasonable fee, you'll have more people installing, hopefully, and better service for the town.
Right.
And I think there should be a fee, but I don't think it's, I don't think $250 is the way to go.
No, that was just a copy and paste from
Yeah.
an existing town.
No, I see them all over the place.
Why wouldn't we just keep it at 100? That's the other one.
You like the 100.
And the other question is, if there's a person on our existing sewer drain layers that worked in town for several years and renews his license every year, also does water work, do they need to get both, or one of them is sufficient? I'm thinking of one contractor.
I think you should have one for each, my opinion, because not everyone does that.
One for each?
I mean, not everyone does the one, at least, if they can come up with all the pertinent information for whether they're working on sewer or water, I think that's one of the most important things, but that it should be separate, if you ask me.
Okay.
I mean, this is my opinion, if we keep it at 100, then
200 will cover everything. If you want to do your sewer and the water.
just keep it. Because it doesn't necessarily mean this guy who's been doing sewer work for 20 years, and you know, you can come up with a million different scenarios. And then all of a sudden he's got something that encompasses water, and he's never done it before. But he's got that piece of paper saying that he can. That's just kind of, and unfortunately, you've been in the business long enough, you've seen it.
Oh,
I've seen it.
it's absolutely true.
This is my opinion.
So let's go that way then. If,
John, did we draw them up?
100 is
$1 million?
No, but I like the clicking, clicking, if I'm a contractor, and I don't have the time, because you guys are running all over the place, and you finally got some time at night where you can print it off and get it all done, and then send a flyer with a check and get it all done for you.
It'll simplify things, bring things a little further advanced. It will.
And particularly,
I like the option of being able to come, in a world far, far in the future and pick up an actual hard copy on that kind of a person. Because again, then you get to talk and see, what your preference is and where everything's got to be and how you like stuff. But in the building trade, some towns are online only, and it's ludicrous because there are so many back and forth that one of the towns, you couldn't save the application until it was complete or some crazy thing, so it was just a whole 7 attempts, and I'm like, can't I just take a piece of your physical application and run it around my world and have it all, we're online only. And I mean, that's really cool for the people who work in Boston as a homeowner doing their own repair, but like you said, for a contractor, we're all working, and if I can't go there and grab a document and take it to my insurance company, or at least get my information from my insurance company, and check all the boxes and fill everything out as I move through my world, it was horrible. Yep. So I like the two-part component, and then so I guess each one will be 100. Sewer is 100, water is 100. What did we miss? The OSHA 10 is good for both references.
It's just the world we're coming to. You need to have that safety training. Again, I mentioned some of the old timers or the good old boys. It's probably something that they haven't been through. But it doesn't hurt.
I do it all the time online. You can surf a couple of nights and get your certification re-upped with the OSHA 10 like nothing.
Right.
It's like $79.
Right. It's well worth it, and especially if you have somebody that's inexperienced. You can learn a lot in that short period of time. All right, so we'll jump down. Update on the sewer line meter. We did get our quotes that we requested renewals on for the Howard Street line meter. I think I mentioned that at the last meeting and the one prior to that. There was an $800 increase from the ones that we had 6 months ago. It was a promotional thing that was going on at the time. So that's not offered to us anymore. But
Like they're selling shoes, right?
yeah, maybe I've got a pair of shoes with it. So we are going to move forward with the purchase and installation of that so that we are more accurate than we are right now. license. I'd like to request an amendment to the current sewer regulations for our product, that, our sewer department technician, more or less stumbled across. As you know, we always battle I&I with sewer installations, old and new. The technology just really hasn't been there to get a very good feel when you're making a lateral connection. The old, half T and band clamp with some silly buddy, might work until you backfill the hole. So this product that, you come across in one of the training classes is known as an inserted T. It's also got a commonly known name. It's called the Fat Boy. So basically, it can be installed with simple tools, and there's a hole saw that you drill a hole in the side. It's a specific size related to their gasket material. The gasket actually goes in and fills the entire hole, and then there's a PVC pipe that goes in through that. So it wedges the gasket against the hole that was drilled. There's a one clamp that goes around that. It's not going to push out. It's not going to move, and it leaves you with a bell end to connect to. And, with some of the...
Is there a dead stop on the inside of the gasket so
There is. Yep.
an obstruction in our main?
You're exactly right. It stops flush through the pipe. The rubber gasket that is on the inside is smooth, so there are no protrusions or rough edges to catch
So you
anything.
can take it if you had to, kind of?
Yes, you can. Yep. Even if you had to line it and cut them out,
Right.
you have to show that.
would be a good into.
There you go. Because it's just enough.
Right.
Again, something that, we don't commonly excavate to find these, but for new installations, we would want to have that in there.
No, right, the gazover, the band clamp on the gazover is ludicrous. It does have a little intrusion, but it's,
Right.
at best,
If the
it's definitely not pressure tight, but it's,
even the best contractors would go down and they put a tube of silicone around there, get it as tight as they possibly could.
Is this for a gravity feed?
Only for gravity.
Gravity only,
Yep.
lateral.
Yep, gravity lateral. It actually can be used on stormwater drains, same type, setup. It can be used on all different types of pipe. It can be used on clay, cement, iron pipe, and PVC. It's got I forget exactly what the word they were using, but it fits all different applications. You order the T-specific, knowing what your application
Yeah,
is.
right. A lot of the supply companies have the hole saw because there are so many different sizes. So they'll rent you the hole saw, sell you the pieces, and you bring the hole saw back and get your deposit back.
Right. Yeah, that way you don't have to
That's
have a
how,
whole of it.
you have to stock 6 of them.
Right. Unless you were doing, a mile worth of pipe, it wouldn't make sense
No,
for you to do it.
right, they all have them.
Yep. Plus, if you had it and you spent a decent amount of money on it and it get damaged, you're throwing that money away. Why not rent it, bring it back when you're done, and if it's dull, they're going to give you a new one. It just seems like a good way to go to have that in the rules and regulations for new connections to gravity mains.
If we have a lot of new connections, well, those have laterals already.
Yep. These are for ones that don't.
Yep.
Future expansion in areas that, would have typical groundwater, this would be a perfect scenario
Is this a
for it.
brand new product that just came out, or?
I do not know how long this has been around. There is a video on YouTube of all places that shows exactly how this works. Really simple hand tools.
They've got a little mushroom type. There are a few iterations of this. Some of them, the lip was in the rubber gasket, and then a common piece of pipe goes in that you had to sculpt to the outside, and you just sawzall it, check it on the pipe, sawzall it a little more, and that, hit it with the rasp and then put it in. But this sounds like a real one-stop solution.
Yep, this has the contour based on the size of the pipe that you're working on. The other benefit to this is you don't have to excavate completely around the lateral that's in the ground that you're connecting to.
Well, I'm not sure that I really enjoy the labor of laying down in the trench.
Right.
Getting out of that 12-inch pipe, man.
Right.
That, it's like these plumbers with their plastic tests. Come on. It's just wrong.
So I was asked to present that to the board to see if that's something that you guys would add to the sewer regulations that are currently in place. That's completely up to you guys.
I like it. I would say or equivalent, so we're not naming that brand, but I would say at the superintendent's discretion. I've heard for so long that, this is on private property and we didn't, like this, so I will say only that type of connection. And to be as or equivalent
but at superintendent's discretion, so you can say no. Because what happens, they have a patent probably for 6 or 7, whatever years the patent holds for, and then every knockoff in the world is gonna come in with substandard material. So if you look at something and it's cheese whiz and wonder, that's not gonna hold up for 100 years underground in these conditions. For sure. That's a good setup.
Yeah,
Do we need to vote on that, or?
No, I would imagine it isn't gonna hurt, because it is an amendment to existing rules and regulations.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to approve, that grant as we just spoke about.
I will second that and ask for all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
And, one last thing, we actually posted to fill a vacancy in our sewer department. It's something that we've been holding off on for a little while. There is a person who was out who was injured quite a while ago, but we do still hold the position available to this person if they do return based on what happens. And we have the funds in place, and we have the need for that person now to start training in our sewer department. So the post was active for 7 days in-house for union requirements. We do have some interest, surprisingly, from other departments. We are interviewing with those people within the next week, and we may still post externally if the people don't have the accurate licenses that we have specific for this position. Not everybody can work or wants to work with wastewater, and there are special requirements that come with that as far as entry-level licenses with municipal wastewater 1, and they would still have to get their entry-level licenses for water distribution and water treatment, because we're still a dual department. Whether they ever use those water and water treatment licenses, the training that they're going to get in that 12-week course is valuable for when they are working around pumps, motors, electrical. There's multiple benefits for it. So we're not sure if we have the right person in mind for it yet, but it's nice to see that other departments have, members from other departments have shown interest in it. I know there is.
Well, the word's out, Frank, you got clean water over here, so people aren't afraid anymore.
That's fine, bring them. We'll be posting for water jobs pretty soon, too.
There you go.
That is all I have. I did run over, sorry.
Yeah. Thorough as usual. Now I think we're gonna move on to, water and sewer main extension by the town of Mansfield over that, grove area that was discussed in the prior meeting. I did see the, emails back and forth, and it seems like, we're all on the same page.
That's a copy of the MOA that was in your email a while back. That was step 1.
For the record, I will note that it's signed by both, town managers of Mansfield and Norton, Kevin Dumas and Michael Unit. And, this says, the towns will endeavor to have a formal IMA as soon as possible in no later than 90 days. And, at a prior meeting, we did say that no work would begin until the IMA was in place, but, I think that was a little, restrictive. Mansfield has said they have someone, in place and ready to go on the installation. If, Frank, you have no, objections, I think that would be good to let them get going in that, I have talked with, Leah and we have an understanding about the way the building will be is from Norton to Mansfield. Mansfield will pay Norton, and Mansfield will build their residents, that according amount. And then all the inspections will be done, by you, Frank, and your department, and, the, mains and end hydrants and blow-offs will be at your, choice of location. So if it's a driveway, obviously you go to the other side with the hydrant, so it's not, obstructing a drive or modifying the resident's property in any way, or the logical stuff that you would already do, but, that would be my only downside, but, I think more customers for us is better, and, we'll just, we'll wait to see about that.
I believe Nancy was talking about, taking some test pits.
Test pits have been dug. I drove through the area, it looks like somebody parked the moon. There's turf test holes, it's gotta be Mansfield.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That was us.
Yeah, I had a similar conversation with Lee and Rick Alves about locations moving forward. We did grant them approval to go and do some land clearing and tree removal
Right.
prior to the MOA and the work that we've seen here on the IMA. And I believe they do have a contractor in mind. I spoke with them this morning. Prior to the implementation of the water licenses, they are well known. They do their in-house safety training.
Sure.
They are going to provide me copies of everything that is required in here, even though it's not in place yet.
Yeah.
I've asked that, and they're going to offer that up as a
Right.
courtesy.
No, the bigger contracts will have that all going on. They'll probably have a guy on site, or someone on site with the safety officer.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's it's a water job, and from my experience, the main got that deep out there.
Right, and as
The
you
side is high and the pipe is low.
yeah, as you mentioned, it's dry. Now is the time to get them going.
Yeah.
We don't have to turn it on if there's a problem with an IMA.
Right.
We can deal with that later, but as long as the infrastructure is in the ground in a timely manner, it's beneficial for everybody.
Right. Now, I see it as a plus because they have the carrot as the tax title taking land that they're trying to get live, and at the point they weren't talking about sewer, it was only water. So if somebody buys a bunch of them, maybe they run the sewer, maybe they put in septic, I don't know. But that's Mansfield's issue anyway. Mansfield sewer is over there, isn't it?
There is sewer on some of those side roads.
And that would be their own sewer, it's not our
It
sewer.
would actually go to our system. It would connect to the Reservoir Street and go down to Cobb Street.
So it would be eventually come to us anyway.
Correct.
Good. Well, we'll see about that later, but the water, I think, is
I didn't hear any talk about sewer.
right.
I heard septic.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, throughout the whole process so far, even the preliminary plans, that were proposed plans, it showed areas earmarked for septic systems.
Right.
So it does not appear that they're going to go the route of installing sewer down there. Maybe that's what those perk tests were for, to make sure that they can still build and put
Right.
sewer.
Now, it's nice sandy soil out there. I remember we spoke before that you're the point guy on this going forward, Frank, so, just keep at the communications, I guess you'd be with Rick. And, he's very, very fastidious in his plans and details. And, almost too much. You guys would get along good, I think. But yeah, and I would just require that they give you the proper notification prior to work, when work starts, all the typical protocols, because they are working in their own town, but you want to make sure that our spec valves and whatnot. I don't know that the two towns are different, but if we were to have our conversation before someone's there installing 100 feet of pipe with a valve that we don't like. Right. And physically, what do you ask them to do? You put a leg of pipe on and then have a valve so they can install the new stuff, or like?
Either right on the pipe or right there, so they can test.
So it's
That's what it
an
gets
immediate, shut the main down, valve it,
In the end,
put a sticker on, line it back up, and then go and do your thing, do all the chlorination. All right.
Right, to keep the new main
Right.
separate from the existing.
Right.
Is the,
There are residents out there losing, as you all know, our water.
that way it keeps everything separate, keeps everything sanitary. The pressure test and chlorination will only be on the new pipe. It won't affect the existing pipe that's in
Yes,
place.
and if anything happens, you going backwards, you obviously would decommission old beat-up pipe and start at the valve and work.
Right, work the opposite way. Yep.
All right, cool.
they also talked about, doing 90s as opposed to Ts into there. I don't know if they discussed that with you.
That was not, we didn't get
He
into
was
that.
gonna run it by you.
Okay.
And then when they moved the hydrant down, going a 90 instead of a T, with like.
Oh, it's a dead end.
There's a dead, yeah.
All right. Well, Bernie would jump around about 245. Whatever you're comfortable, but yeah.
Yeah, that's, I was just gonna say, it's not a deal breaker at all, it was just in discussion.
Yeah, based on location, we'll determine what's best for the situation there. There's a few roads that we have in town that are dead-ended, and we actually don't have the extra length of pipe after the T because it becomes a problem with flushing. So if you can't install that length of pipe with a blow-off, you have no way of removing the water that's going to be stagnant there. So there's a reason that we run the hydrant directly to the end of the pipe and put adequate frost protection in place. So you have no chance of mixing stagnant water with new water if there's a change in pressure.
I mean, if there's any chance at all that we could loop anything down there, then I would do a T, obviously.
It was discussed in the initial conversations that we had, and the proximity to 495, there's a paper road that's there.
Yeah.
And I believe I want to say it was called Airport Road, so I'm not sure the ownership of that road, but it didn't seem like it was an option at the time to create a loop there based on the distance from the existing sound barrier wall for 495 and where they want to end their property line. So, again, it was proposed plans, nothing set in stone. Sure. We'll get some feet on the ground out there. Now that I believe the land has all been cleared, it'll be a lot easier to see and be marked out to show exactly where they want to put this pipe.
Right.
I would imagine also not pointing at cost, I think to loop the main, the length of the loop would exceed the length of the extensions on either
Right,
street.
it's really just, it's a couple of short extensions.
Right.
And in a logical sense, they're not moved now. If we get proper blowouts at the end, I think we could accomplish a similar thing.
Thankfully, knock on wood, we have not had any water quality complaints down there, having multiple dead ends that were created when 495 went in.
Right.
At no cause of our own, whether it's because there is high turnover or lack of turnover, there's multiple reasons for having good water on the dead end, which you don't typically see. When we hit those areas with the flushing program, they turn over very quick. We can get the velocity up because the main that we have in reservoir is quite large. So turnover down there, even if there was a disturbance, would be very quick, and water quality would be restored rather quickly. Not that anybody likes a dead end, but sometimes they're not that bad.
They're relatively short as well, and if you have a big main nearby, I think you can do it. Perfect. If that's all with, Tom Mansfield, we'll go on to, the West End Sam thing.
Carol, let's go first.
Oh, okay. Sarah, are you on the call?
I am.
Hi, Sarah, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's everybody doing tonight?
Looking for some good news, Sarah.
I think I've got some.
Nice, then please continue.
All right. Thank you. So to just tack on to what Frank had talked about, I'm going to start off with the replacement wells 5 and 6. We just really wanted to make sure that everybody's fully aware that when you move forward with bidding without having full permits in place, there is a potential for change orders. We're hoping that there won't be, but if that's the route that the commission would like to take, we certainly will start working with DEP to process the design and move forward with putting together contract documents suitable for bidding. We are all aware that it will take a few more months certainly to permit the wells 5 and 6. We'll be starting a pumping test, 48-hour pumping test in a few weeks. Once all of the paperwork is documented into DEP, they do have up to 72 days to approve. So, we will attempt to expedite this as best as possible, but as Frank had indicated, we are several months out from receiving permits. So, we're more than willing to move forward and complete our design and get it into DEP for review to see if we can get that at least expedited on that portion. But if the commission is willing to go forward with the bidding with the knowledge that there potentially could be up to maybe a $20,000 change order for any changes that we might have if we have to order new pumps. We don't foresee that as happening, but it's a possibility. And also not having PFAS test results back. I think Frank should have those results by the end of this month. So that makes our confidence level go a little bit higher on going out to bid with those results in hand. So I think, we looking at the calendar, maybe putting it out to bid in May, if instead of waiting, say, till the summertime, possibly to mid to late summer to bid.
Well, is there a way to make it, like, adjustable? I know that, let's say the middle of the road, if we have the contractor bid the middle of the road pump, and we get a lesser pump, it would be a little bit of a deduction, or if it was a greater, I'm just trying to, I will ask for your leadership in what you would do in our situation. What is the most linear process? I'm not as hung up about, it is some money, but I'm not as hung up about a couple of dollars as I am a catastrophic failure, and for some reason we waited and we don't have permits and we don't have a well 5.
Right. I think we're looking at, the timing is probably outweighs the potential change order cost at this point. With the drought and the concerns with well 5 and well 6 to a slightly lesser degree of having lower yield and coming into a possible issue in the summertime. One way or another, we're probably not going to make it out of the summer with 5 up and running, but at least you're much closer, and Frank can confirm this. September, October, you're still pumping a lot of water too. So, it's just one of those precautionary measures that maybe taking it a little bit, knocking off a few months, if you will, by waiting for all the permits. Might be in your best interest with the cost-benefit analysis, if you will. And that's just kind of, a quick little analysis here. But, the pump that we'd be specking out, we do want to go with your current permitted withdrawal rate, and what we're seeing right now at 5, it's pretty clear that the well can yield higher than what you're permitted for, but as a replacement well, you can't ask for more than what's already currently permitted. So we're at that number, and then we'd probably put in a pump that's approximately 1.5 times the size of that, so that during peak demand you could pump it for shorter duration for a little bit longer, or for a little bit higher flow rate. But I just wanted, we can certainly do any option basically, and I just wanted to make sure that there is some slight risk by moving forward with a bid without having full permit approval. But I think the risk is relatively small compared to trying to get these wells up and running within 3 less months, waiting for the full permit review, if not longer. So just want to make that's a possibility. You're talking about almost $1 million project here, and it's a possibility of a $20,000 change order. So,
is there an option, Tara? So I just thought of this, for the pump and motor to be supplied by others, which would be by the town, and we would be able to choose the pump and motor that we wanted, submit a request to DEP, and choose the installer?
So that would be a procurement question on your end. I know that some communities have anything over 10,000, you need to get 3 quotes. Anything over 25,000, you need to get 3 quotes. So there's a couple of options there, I guess. Let me discuss that first, and I can check in and just see if there's any concerns. We do want to open discussions with DEP and just talk this through. There's no formal process as one permit for all, so this is all kind of submitted together typically as one package for here's our construction plans and specs, here's our pumping test, and we're looking for approval to complete this project. So we can discuss that. There's a potential for you've got one contractor that's going to have to work with another contractor. But it's we can anything is doable, I guess, if you will. But
Yeah, this is Barbara. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. Since you have, a lot of finger pointing going on, like Tara suggested, and, the person's got to make it all work together, and they're going to be in one contract, and the pump's going to be in another. I think I would recommend no on that unless you were really desperate.
Okay, good information, Barbara, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
She's not gonna let us ham and egg our pump installation together.
I think you're better off just, bidding it with well your best guess and going forward with that. And yes, getting it out on the street when you can. And the only thing is you can't award until DEP approves, but there's a lot you can do before then.
That's all. And then, thank you, Barbara, I appreciate that.
No worries.
So as far as next steps, I could reiterate exactly what Frank said, but we've seen some really good results for what our 18.5 hours so far of the well development. Roughly 80 gallons per minute per foot, and definitely seeing a yield that will be greater than what well 5 is currently permitted for. We've also, we're going to be completing our design of the screen for well 6 shortly, and by early next week we anticipate the driller to be ordering that screen. We got another update just to, it's usually 2 to 3 weeks or so for screens. It's going to probably be about a month for that for well 6 screen. But based on what Frank's talking about, of possibly moving over to well 4 to help out with the well cleaning that's typically done in the spring on that well, and also possibly doing the acid wash on 5 and 6. So we've got some items that can easily be done while the driller who would do all of that work is already on site. So we'll mix and match as needed to make sure that everything's efficient as possible to get that work done. So. And that's kind of my update on the replacement wells. If there are any other questions.
No, I think we're good.
Okay, and then as far as the treatment plant goes, so we received the record drawings and also the post-construction photos from the contractor. Those are the more or less the remaining items that we needed to complete our request for certificate of compliance with the Norton Conservation Commission. That was submitted. The package was submitted last week to Norton Concom, and hard copies were mailed out, I believe, on Monday of this week. So that's in the works. We're also wrapping up our overall record drawings for the town's use. And I believe the wells 4 and 5 warranties, that was one of the only other concerns that we had. Hayes Pump has agreed that they will extend the warranties for an additional year from the April 2020 substantial completion date, so we'll have till April of 2022. By then, 5 and 6 will be already replaced, but at the very least, if there's something that goes wrong, they'll warranty materials and equipment for the pump and motor for wells 4 and 5 for an additional year. And currently in front of you, I believe in the stack of approvals for pay estimates, we have Methuen's final pay estimate to release for Greenwich. Last meeting we discussed that the recycle tank had passed, that they had submitted all of the information that we required for the punch list, and we were ready to close out the contract. So that pay estimate is pay estimate number 25 in the amount of $192,766.31. We recommend payment for that to finalize the project, actually, and close it out.
That's fantastic. I think it's time for that company.
Took a while to get here, but vertical construction's tough, guys. It's there was a few little things still on the punch list for quite a while, and obviously the recycle tank, but made it within the 1 year substantial completion date. That's not too bad for a vertical construction, $1 million plant.
So,
to summarize, there's no lingering uglies that are gonna come back, in your opinion, and nibble at our butt?
As far as I know, and what I could forecast, I don't see anything. You know, you've got a contractor that is still willing to communicate with us, and certainly if there's an issue, you know, if it's beyond the warranty period, everything's been up and more or less functional since March of last year, other than the recycle tank, which we kind of hashed out last meeting. But the you know, they're not going anywhere. So if there's an issue and we need to address it, we can certainly contact them and talk it out. But I think you know, everything's been running and functional, and seems to be, you know, in order. I think the only thing, and it's probably going to be more on us than the Methuen anyway, would be the approval of the certificate of completion from conservation. But other than that, I mean, they've provided the documentation that they need, and they've restored, and everything's gone through a growing season and looks stabilized out there. So I don't really foresee anything now. I think we're in pretty good shape.
Sounds good. Frank, your guys agree with this summary?
They agree, and can't wait to start using that to its full capacity.
Nice. Well, then I'm gonna ask for, if there's no more discussion, I'll ask for a motion to approve, is it 25? KREC 25?
Motion to approve, KREC 25, for a new treatment plant to Methuen Construction Company, new loan of. Is it the 191, 331.89?
It's chapter 31, is that it?
192,766.31. Hold on, let me check.
I see,
This is 192,766.31.
Yep. This number here?
we're on the wrong piece of, all right, my fault.
You need both of them.
In the amount of 192,766.31. My apologies, it was that?
I'll second that, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Motion carried. We'll get the money headed their way.
You're gonna hand deliver this, I heard.
Absolutely, as long as I'm commissioner, which is gonna end very soon.
All right, great. Excellent. Thanks. That's actually, I'm going to leave on a high note, and that's the end of my update.
All right, well, thank you very much, Sarah. That's fantastic.
Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
We'll go to Steve Peterson with any sewer updates.
Yes, so not much since the last meeting. We are still looking at the final paving, so we had a meeting last Wednesday, 31st, with Mass DOT, the contractor, and many others. A lot of people out there walking up and down the road. The basic intent of the meeting, as per the permit, we required, at a minimum to repave, to do the final milling and overlay of the full lane width of the disturbed lane. And so we walked the site. There are a lot of areas with the stipulation that if, based on this site walk, Mass DOT determines that there are areas that need full width replacement, that will be the case. The long and short of it is, there was a lot of back and forth and discussion about certain areas and what people want and don't want. It's kind of a frustrating process because it's Mass DOT's road, so it is their call in the end to redo the laterals. So, long story short, we ended up with about half of the job, which is what we projected. Half of the job, we're just doing one lane, and then another half where we had every 25 feet we had a service connection, areas of heavy service connection, or where they had to come into the middle of the road. There were some areas where, based on the ledge or the utilities, that they encroached on the middle, where they'll be doing both sides of the road. So we've actually put that together. We drafted up plans to document the meeting, and distributed those. I can forward those, to you guys to take a look at if you'd like. But, so the plan is to do the actual paving, hopefully April vacation week. So Aggregate is the paving contractor is contingent upon their schedule at this point. You know, they've got another job that they're finishing up over the next couple of weeks. So hopefully they'll be able to get the miller out there starting Tuesday of April vacation week. We put in a request with Mass DOT to work on the Tuesday because it's the day after a Monday holiday. You know, so after a long weekend, you're not supposed to, per the permit, you can't work the day after. So they're not supposed to work on Tuesday, but so they have permission to work on the Tuesday. Still a moving target as to what Aggregate schedule is. So we'll have to keep an eye on that because if it carries into the next week and school's in session, then we have to be aware of the school schedule. You know, they were notified that, you know, they couldn't start before 8:30 is what we did before. That's when all the kids are in school.
That's like noon time for a paver.
So there was some talk of doing it at night, which the permit allows.
Right.
So that's, if they want to do it at night, that's up to them. So hopefully, if they get out there on Tuesday of school vacation week, they believe it's a couple of days of milling and a couple of days of paving, and they're done at the end of the day Friday. But whatever carries over into the following week, we'll just have to be aware of the impacts on the bus traffic more than anything. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Very good.
We delivered, on the same day we delivered the record drawings and O&M manuals, so the O&M manuals for the pump station at West Main, and then the record drawings, or as-built for the job. So the other thing on that job, so we talked about the betterments before, and Rose, I see you distributed so the thing we talked about was sending a connection letter out to the abutters. So this, so I looked at this real quick. This is one question. This looks great. One question is, does this letter typically quote a time frame for them to have to connect by, or is there another letter that goes out?
I think that would be addressed with the actual betterment amount and their options on how to pay it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to add it in here, I certainly.
It's just that that's not tied to so they have to pay the betterment,
Yeah,
and it's not
really tied to the time.
Yeah, they're going to have to pay the betterment before they tie it, or potentially unless they tie it right away. So I would just throw that out there, because it's 5 years, right? 5 years. So just in that sentence, it says they may proceed with steps needed to connect their dwelling or building to the municipal sewer system, somehow, within 5 years. And of the date of the letter, so this is their official notification that the 5-year clock has started, whatever the actual date of this ends up being. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Thank you, Steve.
So that's in the first paragraph. And you mentioned a list of connection procedures isn't closed.
Well, that thing you gave me, we'll have to work on it to make it up.
So you want to do something like that? We can help you with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, you got to make it specific to Norton. Obviously, that one had a lot of things that were not Norton specific. We've given a couple of examples of connection letters from other communities. This is kind of a combination of information from those different letters. Okay. So I just wanted to comment on that. So, and the intent is to get those letters, or with the commission, you guys wanted to get the letters out, and then the next thing is that we need to assess by July. So, Rose provided the updated water records. We're going to relook at our betterment table, just using the most recent. When we talked before, we said we use the water use data that we had done at the beginning of the project. So we now have current water use data just to make sure the numbers are consistent with what we were looking at before. So we'll finalize that table. Then you can start the process with the assessors and treasurers. Okay? That's where we're at on that stuff.
I don't think the letter is the place for this, but I think the sewer tie-in applications for those units should somehow address the Board of Health, because they all have septic tanks, and they're all gonna be decommissioned, at least the tank and or filled or removed, however we coordinate. I don't want that to slip by. I've seen that.
It's part of our map.
Okay. And I know it would be, it's out of the sewer realm, but because sewer is the new thing, everybody's gonna be talking to us really, and maybe not talking so much to the Board of Health, but if we can just do a little bit of a direction over to coordinate with the Board of Health, that would be great.
It's the application.
This is the application, we must have had, when you cut it to a project, we had 2 additional papers. One was for Jennifer because.
Sure. Everyone was, yep, everyone was conservation related.
Right, and then the Board of Health, we could sign off that the, existing system has been abandoned. So I'll make sure that's part of this application.
Thank you. Because I specifically ran into one, other one kind of saying, it was, again, it's, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying it's a hazard because it's not known anymore. And, there was someone in Taunton that plowed off a cover for a septic tank and some child fell in and it was not good. I don't want to be part of any of that. And the problem is, it's 2 different branches.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the charter commission might solve all that, but they might not either. I think it still relies on being conscientious people. What's going on over there, Bishop? Are you using an erasable pen on me? You think that's funny? You're making me worse. I think we should have that reorganization right now. But that's, that would be my 2 cents on it. And I said the same to Christopher, Zanner from the Board of Health, and he's all about getting them backfilled at decommission. And a lot of them, you almost can't miss it because the new connection will go either right through the old tank grave or not, but sometimes they have a roundabout way to go, and then you have the problem.
Right.
Thank you. We're just gonna, let me redo that.
Tara, you still out there?
Like, no, she hasn't.
I am actually. So Frank just texted me and reminded me that I forgot to mention that if you didn't sign pay estimate number 24, I believe only one still needs to be signed. One commissioner needs to sign, but that's in the amount of $36,446.80. That was approved probably back in December, but I believe we were waiting for the recycle tank to be completed until that was actually formally signed and a check cut for it. So I just wanted to bring that back to your attention. It is in your file.
You can just get on the horn and tell Methuen it was 2 for 1 day. The 191, which one do they want? I think they want the 191. I'll be happy to sign this one. Thank you.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
Sure.
Holy moly.
Mr. Chairman, signs like a window.
You sign all of them?
Why?
Doesn't he sign all of them?
Yes, it does.
I didn't want
Oh, you already checked out.
Only if you don't want to be on next month's meeting's agenda.
Right.
Look, we need one more.
Yeah, one more time.
Okay. I'm all set.
Cool. Thank you, Steve.
told me, they didn't tell us they were gonna be out there.
Oh, okay.
We were gonna let you know that they were gonna be there.
They didn't let us know, but I did see it was raised.
How's it look? Here I ask.
They still gotta better everything back, but it's...
So the patches off, they gotta,
Yep, 1 course of bricks raised it so it will shed water instead of collect. There were some concerns about the piping inside, the channels that the pumps would slide up on.
yeah?
They were disconnected from the hatch so they could raise it, so hopefully those will be secured accordingly after. If not, we cannot remove the pumps.
You have to be able to.
They need to remain in place. The two steel pumps that are tied up on, the rails, so.
Okay, so now, prior to your
No, I do.
favorite
I don't care how it
motion,
is.
I would like to do a reorganization. So,
Can I deny that request?
you certainly could, but we're members of the commission, so we
We are, thank you.
Can you do
You know.
it second vote then?
I'm gonna make a motion, and he's gonna have, I mean, we got what we got.
Okay.
I don't know how else to do it. I'll ask all I had to do it, but, or Bill, the virtual mom, I don't know. But, I'm gonna go ahead and nominate Steve Bishop to be chairman of the Norton Water Sewer Commission going forward, and to have all acting and implied and specific powers related thereto.
All those in favor?
All those in favor, aye.
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 Fantastic.
Looking forward to the next forum.
That means you have to do the motion to,
Right, favorite motion.
gotta be now.
Nice. I'll give you, my favorite motion is, did you set a next meeting? Who's jumping the gun?
I'd like to, I got a couple things I want to say. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Luke. Your expertise, your gentle manner, and you made things fun, and you did it in a professional and fun way. I can probably speak for everybody here that we appreciate it. We wish you weren't going, but we understand, and we definitely thank you very much.
Thank you for those kind words, I really appreciate it.
And I'd also like to thank and recognize Nancy Freeport, who retired this past week. I was unable to attend and see her off. Hopefully I'll see her around town, and but she's had, how many years here? 22 years of hardworking, and she's a super nice lady. Whole family's super nice. She's, she did a great job here for us, and she'll be missed, I'm sure. Absolutely. I just wanted to recognize Nancy. All right. And next meeting will be after April 20th. Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Victoria. April 20th,
Time do I pick?
if we can. And make sure everyone goes out and votes Saturday. And,
What time for the meeting? 6 o'clock?
oh, you have to do that too?
Well, there used to be a what?
You know, you get into it.
6 o'clock, if, it's good for you. Yes, yeah, 6 o'clock, on April 20th would be good, and then we'll schedule more if we need be, and we'll see how the 10th. May the 10th be with you.
So now I can make
Make your favorite motion.
my favorite motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you at the next meeting, everybody. Thank you very much.